Hi, welcome. We're your hosts. I'm Ian.
I'm Monica.
Hey, and this is the Goblins Pockets, a D&D review podcast where we review D&D content and tell you whether you should waste your hard-earned cash and time on it. And this week is it's our second episode, and this is our first. What are we calling it? Show and tell episode?
Show and tell. Let's go with that. Work in progress.
So in these episodes, we're going to each tell each other about something that we found, and we'll be telling you, the listeners and viewers, about this thing for the first time also, and hopefully you enjoy it. But Monica, how do these episodes start?
So we will start with the age-old D&D tradition of rollies. Whoop, whoop, whoop.
I dropped it. I dropped it.
No, you dropped it. Not intentional.
I got it.
So already a diatribe, a conflict in the hosts has come up because I had to choose. I have so many dice. I've chosen my sparkly blue clear dice because it's trusted and it served me well.
I couldn't give a crap as long as it's got 20 sides.
See, like, how can I work with this man?
Yeah,
how can I work with this man?
Look, we've already established from the first episode that people are going to hate me just because I don't like Critical Role. Now that they're going to learn that I'm not a dice goblin and I couldn't give a crap.
It's okay. It sets me up as a solid favorite. I don't mind.
Well, I mean, you're already my favorite, so it's not hard.
Oh, thank you.
But
Ian.
watch this. Watch this 20. I mean,
rollies.
Decent.
Oh,
you didn't.
Well, not quite. I got a 19.
Ooh, okay. I got 16. Well, you know, that's one to you. One nil to Monica. Okay. So Monica, take us away. What have you brought to show and tell this week?
Okay. Today, I brought a one-shot adventure that I ran. I know. A little bit different from a podcast.
Yours?
A little bit different from other content. But
you created it.
I did not create this. Let's not go wild. I'm sorry.
Whoa, come on.
I found this wonderful adventure at Winghorn Press, which I will talk more about in future episodes. It's a wonderful repository, database, resource for DMs and players alike. It is a free adventure, a one-shot adventure in 5th edition for 5th level players. My players were 4th levels, and it was absolutely fine. The name of it, and the reason why I chose it, is Wild Sheep Chase.
Wild Sheep Chase.
It's a great name.
This, I mean, okay, I'm hooked already. It's not Kill the Queen or, you know.
It is not.
Wild Sheep Chase. Okay, right. I guess we don't want you to spoil this, but go ahead and to do as much as you can without spoiling it.
I will. Okay. It is an adventure that sets you off in aid of a wizard who has been polymorphed into a sheep and can speak to you speak to other animals.
Classic D&D.
Classic D&D. However, it has a comedic twist. It's kind of funny. You can make it as serious or as goofy as you want, really, because come on, like, you're basically following a sheep around town. Like, come on, that's not too serious. I will not spoil the plot or spoil the storyline. However, I can say it is a very friendly adventure for new players and new DMs. It was my my second session as a DM, and my first session with a group of players, some of whom were complete or near complete new players. So it was definitely the first session with those characters, and it served as a really good backdrop for people to explore role play and kind of the motivations behind their character, as well as just skills and abilities and badass spells for spellcasters and badass axes for fighters. It was a really good adventure. We really enjoyed it.
Great. So how did you buy this? Where did you what?
I was looking around because as a new DM, I'm still a little bit worried about planning a one-shot or a campaign. I had planned a one-shot before using all my own material, and it took so long because obviously, you know, this as a DM, new DM, you over prepare, right? I had like pages and pages of notes, and I thought, you know what, I don't have time right now. I had a rough time at work. I needed something quite quick to get my players
Yeah.
engaged. And I was browsing around the internet and I found great reviews on Reddit for this adventure. There were a few options and I'm planning to try some more, but this kind of just caught my eye because it looked very well planned, very well laid out. It has some incredible tips for DMs in terms of role playing and just managing the storyline. What happens if a player decides to go a completely different direction than the one that you had set out, for example? It helps you through that. And as a
Oh,
new
cool.
DM, that can be really scary, right? It can be really daunting when someone says, well, you have 3 shops, and then the player wants to go to the flower shop for no reason that didn't
Yeah,
exist
right.
until a second ago. So it's very friendly for DMs because it allows them to work through the story and different possibilities. It is fun for new players and players because it allows them to, you know, to fight not the usual, I don't know, wild goblin, but instead some animals, which I think is quite fun.
So
And it can,
you like fighting animals?
you are fighting animals, not real animals,
But
polymorphed
you
animals.
like fight. Oh, okay.
I
So
love me, Monica. Yes, I
yeah,
love going out
animal
and fighting
abuse.
bears. That is what I do in my pastime. I am
Yeah,
a
yeah.
strong woman who goes and fight bears. Ironically, 2 of the players are from Alaska, so they probably could do that.
Oh,
They live in
wow.
Alaska, so yeah, for them it
Yeah.
was a real close to home kind of thing. And it can easily be adapted to any setting. I managed to kind of slide it into my setting that I kind of set up for a future campaign,
That's
and it was,
interesting.
yeah, really easy to do.
Yeah, I've definitely heard about people buying these kind of smaller one shots and then slipping them into their worlds already. Because
Yeah,
sometimes you just need to go somewhere, make a bit of dollar, and help out a
yeah.
small town. Like, yeah, that's a really clever idea. So I'm gathering that this was like a digital download or something like
It
that.
was. It was a
Okay.
PDF download, free down on phone free. Yes, you could download it directly as a PDF and save it on
Okay.
your computer, no hassle.
And what did it come with? Talk to me. Like,
So it was really well laid out. It had a how to set up the adventure. It recommended DMs read the adventure before playing it, even though it said if you want to kind of just wing it, that's absolutely fine. You can do that. And I do suggest if you do decide to try it, reading through it, it can be really helpful because of all of those DM tips that you can read. It came with role playing tips for the different NPCs that you encountered. So what kind of character is the sheep, what kind of character is the big bad, and that way it can help you role play them more creatively rather than just reading a script.
cool.
It came with stat blocks for enemies. It came with some really fun enemies that were kind of homebrewed specifically for the one shot, and it came with a combat map,
Oh,
which I
great.
think can be something that helps people who don't necessarily want to do theater of the mind and want to see characters on a screen or on paper get really immersed in the story.
Oh,
So
awesome.
yes,
Yeah, I
very
mean,
cool.
yeah, it sounds good. I mean, I've got some experience of looking at these kind of one shots. I know there are a few websites out there that kind of the DM's Guild is a big one where there's, and from what there's so many. Like,
Yeah.
what made you? How did you land on this one? Like,
Purely through Reddit. As a new
okay,
DM, I didn't even know what kind of resources I had access to, and only later have I realized that there's so many of these databases with both free and paid adventures to choose from. And I just had a look at some low level adventures. That was one of my issues. A lot of the one shots are for first level characters
yeah,
and
right.
therefore are too easy. And I didn't even want to spend the time adapting it. Like I didn't even want to spend the time making the CR a bit like the challenge rating a bit higher. And some of them are just too high for level 10 characters, and my characters would have been annihilated in one of these adventures. So finding the sweet spot of level 4, 5, and 6 was perfect. So I had a look at Reddit, I found some options, and then I just had a look through. And I think as a DM, you probably know this, you have an idea of what the party is, what the party likes, and kind of the vibe of the group. And
Yeah.
I chose an adventure based on the vibe of the group. I knew that they needed something that was a bit fun. And something that I didn't mention is my broader setting is in a university. So my plan was to, or a university town, city, kind of island, I should say, high fantasy, of course, and I wanted an encounter that could work well with non-lethal damage, because at least in the one shot, these are students. How realistic is it that students go around and just murder random people on an island? Probably not.
I mean, the campaign I'm currently in, I'm a 16-year-old that has committed way too much murder. There is we were like we were set up from the start that you're all students, and we just went straight out into the world, murder day one. And it's just like, and I think
different approaches.
I'm still one of the only characters that often checks in with us, and they're like, "We're 16, right? Like,
are we okay?"
It's like, "Oh, stop perving on them." I'm not perving on them. You know, I'm 16. I'm just interested. It's yeah. So yeah.
Is therapy included as part of the level like 10, 11
I know,
development?
Right? So yeah, so you'd recommend it? Like,
I would absolutely recommend it. I think it's a really good one shot that allows people to get familiar with running combat, for example, at a really good pace, that allows people to dip into role play as much or as little as they want. And all my players really enjoyed it. I had some really experienced players who appreciated the fact that it was very different from the usual one shots, whether it's basically a dungeon crawl or a mini dungeon crawl. And instead, it had a bit of a goofy element, fighting against very different kinds of enemies. And my newer players found it quite interesting to test out the space, to test out their characters. And one thing that you probably know, new players have this amazing ability of breaking the game, doing things that you wouldn't even expect the character to do. And I think, right, it's amazing. I love that. And this campaign allowed some of my players to try things out in their own way, not in the way that this character should necessarily do these things.
And I think you raised a really good point that got me thinking, and it might be making other DMs out there think, is this I went for a homebrew from day one, basically, or a rough homebrew from day one, and a lot of people like homebrew, and the idea of running somebody else's module can be a bit off-putting. But this idea that you can take a one shot that is kind of generalized and slot it into your world, I think that's a great opportunity to try running a module if you've never run a module before. Like, it's a testing ground. It's going to take you a session or two tops to slot this one in and see how you get on. You might learn something from it, which is going to be great. Like, we should all enjoy learning.
Absolutely. It enriched my world, because now I have a couple of characters that allow me to play off of it.
You've got these fleshed out. Oh yeah, great idea. Yeah.
And it only took me around 3 or 4 hours of gameplay. So it was really just a test the waters session to get everybody involved. And it was a really good length of time. I could have stretched it out if I wanted to. I could have cut some pieces out and made it shorter. It's a very flexible one shot that you can easily adapt into whatever setting your campaign is.
Fantastic. And so you'll tell everyone how to find that, I guess.
Yes. If you go to Winghorn Press, there is a link in the description for the actual one shot. However, you can have a browse. It's full of amazing stuff. A lot of it is free. And I should say that this adventure was published in 2016, and it's copyrighted to Richard Jensen Parks, which I want to credit because it's a great adventure. And they should definitely be celebrated for the work. So
awesome. Oh, thanks, Monica.
You're welcome. I will give you my D20 rating.
Okay. Go on.
This was a 17.
Ooh.
Yes. I just made that up on the spot.
Another classically high rating from Monica.
Yes, I'm a good teacher. I'm a good cop. But also, it was my first module. I managed to run it without incident, which I think is a tall order. I don't necessarily think it's easy to write a good one shot that new DMs can feel confident in, and this allowed me to feel confident as a DM. So well done.
There you go, a 17. So if anybody wants us to review their content on here, you should be sending it to Monica to review. She's going to give you sweet high.
Oh, don't worry, I can be mean when I want to.
Which is, I apologize then to the person that I'm going to be reviewing after this short break.
Oh no!
It'll be fine. It'll be
It'll
fine.
be fine.
That'll be fine. It'll be double digits. I promise. I promise.
Okay, perfect. Should I
Okay.
change it to a 15, Ian? Do you want me to
No,
make
no,
it a
no,
15
no,
bell curve?
no,
Okay.
no. You stick with your guns. Right. Yeah. See you in a bit. Bye.
See you in a bit.
Enjoy the break. Hey, got an idea for something we should review? Or been thinking of buying something for your D&D collection, but the price has put you off? Why not join our Patreon? For just £4 a month, you'll get a say on what content we review, and when we buy something using Patreon contributions, we'll raffle it off to our patrons. So, you'll be in with a chance of winning the thing you wanted us to review anyway. Good, right? So, go find us on Patreon at The Goblins Pockets. And of course, all new supporters get a shout out on the latest episode. Because we love you. I'm sure that break was really good. They would have loved it. It's my turn.
It is your turn.
And
what do you have?
Look, right. Let me. I need to get my tabs open. So I have got another podcast for you. I think our listeners are going to soon learn that I consume podcasts. Like
who doesn't these days?
I mean, it's like a delicious donut that I can't get enough of. I love a podcast. I walk my dog. I listen to podcasts. I spend a lot of time listening. But the podcast I'm going to be reviewing today is Girls Who Don't D&D.
Love the name.
So it's a good one. Yeah, and you can forgive yourself if you've not heard of this podcast. It's quite new. It's currently only got 11 or so episodes. I know some of them are split into like part 1 and part 2, so there might be more
brand
like
new
15. But yeah, it's so you're going to be jumping in early doors, but they've done really well since they launched. I think they launched it was in 2020. So just January 2020, I think, just before COVID hit. So they got a few episodes in, then COVID slowed them down a little bit. But they continued on. But pretty much, as the title kind of says, Girls Who Don't D&D, this is a podcast where there's an experienced DM and the 3 players are complete noobs. And I fucking love noob players. It's something you're going to learn. I love playing with people that have never played D&D before. There's something about that kind of naivety, or the not being, they don't have the restrictions of the rules yet, that it leads to such creative play. And listening to these 3 women, because it says girls who don't play, but they're women, they're adult women. Listen to these 3 women play is so refreshing. If you're somebody who consumes a lot of D&D podcasts and you're kind of used to the fantasy tropes and all that sort of thing, check this out. Honestly, the DM is very experienced. You can tell they've done a lot of work.
Nice.
I think the dynamic is that his name's Corey, and I think he was the boss of these 3 people. So like they work together.
Cool. Okay.
Something along those lines. But there's Corey and there's the 3 women, Stacey, Alana, and Indy, that all play. And from the get-go, they're just given like character sheets. Corey set them all up, and he's just kind of invited them along, and he's recording it from the get-go. It's it's pretty raw.
So the characters are created by the DM. So the girls or the women came in with just a character sheet made for them.
Yeah. So this
nice. Okay.
As far as
jumping in a deep end.
Yeah, it's a bit like that. I don't know if you've ever played a starter set, but those kind of pre-made sheets. So they've, there's a barbarian, there's a rogue, and there's a wizard. And
great group.
Yeah, it's a good split. But
not a healing spell between them.
As far as like their backstories and the characters that they play, it's kind of left up to them, really. The DM does a real good job of introducing lots of backstory, and the way he does it from a podcasting point of view is really unique as well. I've not heard anything like it before. He actually gets guests and other people to record sound bites that he then plays to them.
Oh, that's very cool.
They start off having like a mild amnesia sort of thing, and as the episodes progress, they listen to these sound bites from other people, listeners and friends and that sort of thing. So you get all these snippets of who they are from these. and that's really cool. So from
That's
like
very
it's quite unique. um yeah, it's funny, like, so these three women, like, the only exposure they'd had to D&D was from, like, The Big Bang Theory,
Oh, great.
TikTok, and, like, some fantasy novels. Like, they're completely fresh to it.
Sounds comprehensive knowledge to
And
me.
honestly, I imagine a lot of people who are listening to our podcast now, this D&D review podcast, probably play D&D already.
Yeah.
But don't if you know somebody who doesn't play D&D, who you think should be playing D&D and they still haven't gotten into it, this is a perfect podcast to give to them. Just be
Wow,
like,
that's a
if
glowing recommendation.
yeah, you've never listened to podcast, you've never played D&D and you've got no idea what it's about. If you don't know if you're into, listen to this podcast, listen to these three women who have never played before, who are, they're like some nerdier stuff, but they've heard about it, and just listen to them get involved. Man, some of the stuff they're coming up with, and like, again, I just love new players. Like, at one point they're packing their bags for an adventure and one of them's like, oh, what are you going to buy? And she's like, I'm just going to buy underwear, like loads of underwear. We need fresh underwear. That's what priority. And it's hilarious. Like, there's so many things.
How
And
has nobody thought of this?
I know, right? But it's such a fresh, unique take on the game, and the world that the DM Corey has created is, it's really fresh, it's really new. You can tell he's put a lot of work into it.
Nice.
The actual, like, production value of the podcast as well is high, really high. Like, from the bat, you've got sound effects, background music. It's all
Wonderful.
theater of the mind, so it's very much made to be a podcast as well. So the way combat is structured is all very free flowing, and
Mm.
yeah, it's funny as well. Again, if you're listening to our podcast, you're going to continue to listen to our podcast, you're going to find out that I like comedy
Oh,
podcasts. I
we
like
like funny.
comedy.
Yeah.
D&D is where I'm at. Like, yeah, I love me some Lord of the Rings. I love me all that stuff, but throw in some comedy, a quip here and there, a laugh or a joke, an innuendo, and you've got me hooked. Um, yeah, I'm really enjoying this. I think I'm up to date. I might be an episode or two behind at the
Mm.
moment, but yeah,
And let
and
me
it's just
ask you,
11.
you are like 11 episodes in, and
Mm.
the women kind of started out, as you said, with like starter pack level character sheets. How are they evolving as players through their backstory? Like, are they finding it easy to kind of get all these hints and clips that the DM is throwing at them?
They just don't struggle. The role play side of it, they've just jumped on board with. I think, and like, women, the ladies on this show, if you want to write me and prove me wrong, but I'm pretty sure most of them are playing their characters as, like, almost as themselves, with a bit of exaggeration.
Yeah.
Like that, that has been quite. I think that's quite common. Like, in
Yeah, as
D&D,
first time
it's the
players.
easiest thing.
Absolutely.
But the way they interact with NPCs and the world, they just jump straight on board with it. I think the DM's done a really good job of, mm, the things like combat and the rules and all that sort of thing, made it very digestible. And again, I think anybody who is new to D&D who listens to these podcasts would not be put off by the minutiae of all the abilities and all that sort of thing. He introduces them quite slowly and makes them their own. Like, there's a
Mm.
nice flashback episode where one of the characters describes, like, how they learned the mage hand spell and what it looks like to them, and and it's things like that. So it's like they're developing. The pacing is really nice, and that, like,
It's wonderful.
it doesn't feel like a tutorial, and it honestly, from literally episode 1 onwards, it's fun to listen to, and it's not, as somebody who is, I don't get bogged down by the rules, but I've got a pretty comprehensive knowledge of
Yeah.
them. It didn't stress me out at all. It wasn't
Yeah.
like that. But the DM is keeping it chill. He's very much more about the skill checks than the nitty gritties of combat and
Mm.
things like that.
Would you
And
say that he has the rule of cool kind of thing? Like he's
yeah,
allowing
definitely.
them to
Oh
experiment
yeah.
with
Like,
cool.
and I think this is the D&D is about having fun, and he is helping them have fun. Like, he's keeping the rules, he's got a very good way of, like, telling them, well, you could do this. If they say, I want to do this, and he's like, oh, it sounds like you want to do this, and here's the rule for it. So yeah, he does a great job of that. And yeah, I think um, if you're looking for something that is pretty much brand new, and you love listening. Oh, and the best part, I didn't even say, they're Australian.
Oh,
They're Australian.
they're
It's
cool.
well, not even that. I mean, they are cool. Obviously, they're clearly cool, but so many podcasts out there. D&D podcasts are American, and
American,
that's
British,
fine. It's
some
fine. Some
cases,
British
yeah.
ones as well. But this is they're Australian, and it's really nice. You know, again, it's just a different, you know, culturally different. Some of the things they're
Yeah.
coming up with, some of the, you know, the things they're referencing. It's like if you're Australian, get on it. If you're not, still get on it. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna love it. I can't really recommend it enough at this point.
That's
They've
awesome.
done nothing to upset me in that respect.
And a weird question, it might be difficult terrain to navigate,
Mhm.
but have you found that is this different from other kinds of podcasts that you've listened to? You know, we both know that the D&D culture is dominated by a very different kind of figure than, you
Yeah.
know, Australian women, I think,
Yes.
or women in general.
Well, yeah. I mean, I grew up in a very like female dominated like family,
Yeah.
and I'm using dominate not in a negative.
In the
Yeah,
positive sense.
they were in control, and that's fine. And I really, when I listen to podcasts, I tend to lean towards the people who aren't your atypical 40 something neck beard nerd guy.
Yeah.
Like, so when I hear three women having a great time playing D&D, it really like, yeah, it warms my heart. It makes me like, I love it. Like
Yeah.
it just shows that D&D really is for
Is for
everyone.
everyone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
I can definitely understand what you mean. You know, as I was growing up, I feel like D&D was portrayed to me as something that wasn't really for me, right?
Mm,
The D&D nerds, the boys clubs, are nitty gritty nerds who just play D&D, and you know, you're not one of us.
yeah.
And I think that, you know, you mentioned the Big Bang Theory as one of the
Mm,
things of like, you know, getting to know D&D through the Big Bang Theory. Who is it who plays D&D?
yeah,
The boys.
of course.
And Stranger Thing, who is it who plays D&D? The boys. So it is a cool, refreshing content to see women embrace D&D and make it their own with, you know, their own styles of role play and combat and ideas, because, you know, I've never heard anyone prepare for a trip by packing underwear into
Yeah,
a bag, but that makes so much sense, you know,
yeah.
like, yeah, go buy some underwear. That's what I'm
Exactly.
going to do.
Um,
So I think that's a really refreshing take that hopefully is going to show other girls and women out there that D&D
mhm,
really is for everyone.
yeah.
Anyone who feels like they want to role play is welcome at the table.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, go listen to Girls Who
And
Don't
where can we
D&D.
find it? Where can we find
I
this
mean,
amazing
you can
podcast?
listen to it on Spotify, you know, Apple, all the kind of streaming services you'd expect. They're on Instagram. I think I guess, are on Twitter. I don't use Twitter,
Do they
but
also have a video stream, or is it
mm,
just audio only?
I think they've got some outtakes on YouTube and so I don't know. Maybe they record the whole things on YouTube. I'll have to check it out. But I've
Yeah,
currently just consumed them as a podcast.
perfect.
And you're more than welcome to go and find those things. We'll throw some links in the description as
Yes,
well.
please
Ways
do.
they've got a website that's got more details for you. But yeah, just get out there, slap on episode 1 and make a start. Like I said, they're 11 episodes and they're like hour-long episodes, I think. So it's not too much of an undertaking. And
Manageable,
yeah,
definitely
definitely you'll
manageable.
enjoy it.
So, what out of 20? What would
Oh,
you rate?
this
It's
is
difficult.
now
Panic.
I've had direct contact with the DM because I asked him some questions and I wanted to do it, but I'm putting my foot down and I'm just gonna let anybody know listening to this, we're gonna be 100% transparent with you with
Yes.
our reviews. If somebody wants us to review something of theirs and they come to us, they email us or Instagram us and they're like, please review this show or this product, I'm going to do it, or Monica's going to do it, and we're going to give an honest opinion.
Yes.
And if you don't like that, then I'm really sorry. If you're scared that you would get a bad rating, don't ask us to review your product. But in the instance of Girls Who Don't D&D, I'm gonna give it a 16 out of
Oh,
20.
that is glowing from
Well,
here.
it's only episode 2, and I've thrown out some cruel numbers, but yes, I do rate it 4 points higher than Critical Role.
Which is something.
Come
Which
at
is
me,
a
Matt
lot.
Mercer. Yeah, it's no. If for me, it's a 16. It's refreshing. It's current. It's different. It's got some really unique things I've not heard on any other podcasts. And I'm sorry, Girls Who Don't Do it if you wanted a higher number. But I'm reserving those high numbers. I'm reserving them. So
Oh, I think,
yeah,
you're a harsh critic,
I
but
know
16 is decent. 16 is decent.
it's
Meets
good.
most,
Yeah.
meets many DCs for
I mean,
things.
you've heard
Come
my
on.
review. It's glowing. Go listen
It
to
is
it.
glowing. It is
Enjoy
glowing.
it.
I will definitely have a listen because it
You
sounds
should.
amazing.
Yeah,
So
it's
yeah,
great.
for sure.
Cool. Right.
So let us know what you think. Oh, before we finish, I should say, I have been made aware of the fact that unfortunately my microphone is not the best for now. I apologize. I will change settings very soon. I will change microphone.
No, it's fine.
Someone made me notice. I'm not going to say who. Starts with I, ends with un. But I will change setting. I will change microphones soon enough. Hopefully it's a temporary situation, but bear with me. I'm sorry.
You sound great. But yeah, and if you want to reach out to us, you want to tell me I'm wrong, or shout at me, or send us something to review, then you can reach us you can email us at Gmail, which is the goblinspockets@gmail.com. You can get hold of us on Instagram at the Goblins Pockets. And yeah, we're still on Patreon, so come join in. You'd have heard about it in the break. There's loads of fun there. Again, the Goblins Pockets, we're the only ones out there. Come find us.
Support us and let us know what you think. If you try out the adventure, if you listen to some of the podcasts that we review, let us know what you think. We love to hear from you guys.
Yeah, great. Well, we'll see you next week.
See you next week. Bye, guys.
Bye.